Hello, here is Shybak. Let's get to work as we have so much cool stuff in the studio. Today we are having here 3 Shimano rear derailleurs, as I'm gonna explain to you the differences between Shimano Shadow Plus versus Shimano Shadow Non-Plus versus Shimano Non-Shadow rear mag. On your left side we've got the newest generation of the SLX, that's the M7000. Here in the middle we have the previous generation, M670, and on your right side we have the Derailleur M591. As you can see here on the box of the SLX M7000, you will see the Shimano Shadow logo with this little plus here. The previous generation of SLX will only have Shimano Shadow without that plus system, and here there is no Shimano Shadow logo. So let's see what are the differences and who will benefit from these new systems. To make a long story short, Shimano Shadow and Shadow Plus systems have been designed in order to make our drivetrain, especially the chain, more stable in some extreme conditions. This is non-shadow, this is shadow, this is Shadow Plus. The non-shadow derailleur will have 3 springs. One will put tension on the cage, so the tension pulley will hold on to the chain and stabilize the chain. The second one here is working on shifting down the cassette. Some call it upshifting. I mean just shifting down the cassette from the lowest to the highest gears. So that's the second one. And the third one is hidden right here, and it will allow for the chain, or for the top pulley, for the guide pulley, to put the chain just around the cassette. So here is the third spring. In Shimano Shadow and Shadow Plus there is no third spring, so there is only spring putting tension on the cage, and also the one that will shift against the force of our fingers. So we are pushing the derailleur up the cassette, and the spring will go back down. So that's the first difference. The second difference, remember the system is called Shadow, and that means that those derailleurs are trying to stay in the shadow of our frame set. If we look at the profile of the non-shadow derailleur versus shadow derailleur, we'll see right away that the shadow one is much thinner, and it should be thinner for just about 12 millimeters. What does it make? Does it make any difference for us? Yes, it does. First off, the rear derailleur will not just stand out from our frame just as the non-shadow model, so it will be much more difficult to damage it in the terrain or during the crash. That's one thing. And also this system will minimize the risk of hitting the frame, the chainstay, with our derailleur on some really huge bumps. Another difference between shadow and non-shadow is also that those springs are significantly harder, so there is more tension on this derailleur. How does it affect riding? Just in a second, it's really important. And then we have the Shadow Plus system, meaning also lower profile, just as the Shadow, same springs, plus this clutch. So the Shadow Plus derailleur, look at the non-shadow. I'm able to move this cage quite freely. In the Shadow Plus system, it is extremely difficult to do it. Extremely difficult. It is so difficult so that the manufacturer had to put here some lever so that we can turn it off for removing the wheel. Otherwise it would be really difficult. Now I can just move it, and then when the clutch is on, it is really hard. Now we can adjust the clutch, which is really good. And now real differences in the real world. Shimano Shadow Plus will be the most stable one in the extreme conditions period. So our chain will be the most stable one. It will be also silent as for the chain, so the chain also doesn't hit the chain stays as much as on the other ones. This one will still be quite stable, but not as stable as the Shadow Plus. And here on the really huge bumps, this derailleur will just, you know, be rocking, dancing up and down. Now, disadvantages. The smoothest, the easiest gear change is actually on this one, because of those springs being quite smooth, I would say, not really hard. So this is like much softer feel, and that's something for people who don't really ride extreme in the MTB. You can use this one for MTB, no problem, and it will feel quite good. Also, in my opinion, women, of course not racing MTB, but women who do like to go also for some MTB will like this clicking very nicely and softly of the, for example, Derailleur non-shadow system. This one will be a bit more hard. This one will be the hardest. Advantage of this system is also you will feel that you are changing the gear so much more than on the non-shadow system. But then if you are doing it in a really like dirt environment where there is a lot of mud on your cassette chain and everything, it will be more precise. So definitely for racing conditions, some really bumpy rides and a lot of speed, and especially also for one-by drivetrains, when you don't wanna lose your chain on the front chainring, this will be the best one. But another disadvantage is also that this clutch is so strong, it can affect your rear suspension if you have one on your bike. So if you have full suspension bike, you can sometimes feel that using this derailleur is like having your platform on the damper in the on position. So just make sure it's the right thing for you. You can adjust this one. For my XTR, it's super easy to adjust, but you can do some adjustments. So those Sunday riders, even if you make a lot of kilometers in the terrain on your MTB bike, if you're not going really fast down the hill on some bumpy terrain, non-shadow will be okay. You don't have to, you know, don't bother. This one is kind of in the middle, and I like this one a lot because those harder springs put more tension on the chain, and still shifting is crisp and smooth. This one I would say only for racing, and make sure it will just fit kinematics of your full suspension bike, because it can be quite sensitive to the clutch system. If you have felt any differences between non-shadow, shadow and shadow plus, you know what to do. I'm waiting there. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.